Aloha, my name is Jeff Hickman. I'm the Public Affairs Director of the State of Hawaii Department of Defense. And with me, I have a very special guest, Lt Col Kawika Hosea. And he has a very particular topic of history that I wanted to bring him on and share with everyone because it's important to know our history, to learn from it. And this is one that was actually kind of hidden from everyone, and we'll get into that. First of all, Kawika, welcome. Thank you for spending time with me today. Can you share with everybody the title and the office or section that you work in the Hawaii National Guard?
Sure. I'm currently assigned to the Hawaii National Guard's Joint Staff. It's the Joint Army and Air Staff, and I'm in the J3 Operations Section.
Okay. When we bring people on to our podcasts, Nakoa Exchange, Boots, Wings, and More, nice logo there, yeah? We usually ask people to share their Guard story, so their experiences getting into the Guard, different positions they've held, deployments up until the point you're at now, and if you can, include some of your civilian past, because that's pretty interesting too. So what is your Guard story?
Sure. I actually was already talking to the recruiter at about 16 years old. After taking the ASVAB. So between my junior and senior year in high school, recruiter was speaking with me. So I did most of the physical and everything while I was still 16, which a lot of people at Tripper are like, wait, how old are you? Is this legal? I told them, yeah, as long as my mom signs the paper, and they wait till I'm 17 to swear in. So a couple of weeks after my 17th birthday, I joined the Hawaii National Guard, I was assigned to Bravo Support Battalion back then. Then from there, did my senior year in high school. I'd show up for drill after football games. So did the non-prior service at the old Hawaii Military Academy at Bellows. From there, I went to basic training a couple of weeks after my high school graduation. Came back home, went into school, did a couple of years enlisted before I joined the Army ROTC. Actually contracted with ROTC my junior year, a couple of days before 9/11 happened. From there, I joined the Hawaii National Guard once I commissioned, went off to school. Once I came home, I was activated to go to Iraq on my first deployment. I was actually pulled out of the Honolulu Police Academy for that. But they were good, definitely helped me out as I was transitioning over to the deployment. When I came home, went into the police academy, was assigned later as General's aide, did that tour in Iraq though, with Bravo Support Battalion with yourself. So you and I were deployed together. We did security forces missions, and then we had the section with you that was basically in charge of the motor pool, helping with all the fixing of all the equipment. Following coming home, I bounced around to a couple different jobs. I eventually was General's aide, and then I landed with taking over the support company with 299th Cavalry Regiment. So that was actually really good because I wanted to go over to the 299th during the deployment. So it gave me an opportunity to be able to do a lot of the support mission with them. And then eventually I got to deploy in a cavalry unit with one of the troops over there for my second tour. We were in Kuwait, but did the convoy escorts all throughout the country of Iraq. So that was good. And I got time on the line that I wanted to branch transfer over to cavalry. Coming home, I was able to do a lot of the schooling. I came back to be the Forward Support Company commander, but I was able to do a lot of the cavalry schooling thanks to a lot of my leadership. So I was able to branch transfer into armor and then get a designation in cavalry. From there, I deployed to Afghanistan in 2012 to 2013. Then I was a police advisor with originally, and then we were advisors to the Afghan army.
So you got to use some of your civilian skills.
Originally, that's what we were doing, but like always happens with the military, we got retasked to assist with the Afghan Army battalion that did logistics. So we were assigned over there, but we still helped out with whatever missions the active duty had that they needed our help with. They loved us, especially Hawaii people, because we got along well with the Afghans, and we were always willing to pitch in wherever we needed to help out with the battalion. So they were really good to us. And the commander was from previously 25th, so he definitely left Hawaii people in our, Kona coffee that we'd share with them. Following that, I came home, where did I go? I was the S3 operations officer for the 299th Cavalry. And that's kind of where I really started my historical research. I'm definitely a history geek, and I started to research the unit's history, especially around World War II era, because there wasn't a whole lot that was written about the unit. So I started collecting whatever history I could here and there, especially trying to balance that with my full-time job and then, with playing dad. So whenever I had free time, I'd do some of my history research on the 299's history. From there, I deployed with the unit when I came back as the executive officer. I did 2 years on active duty guard with the unit as the squadron executive officer. We deployed to Egypt during that time as peacekeepers. So we were a part of the multinational force and observers. It's almost like a UN type of mission. So we did that, and after I came home, moved over to the our Harang general staff, and then eventually to the joint staff, where I got promoted to lieutenant colonel. After that, I returned to the 1st Squadron 299 Cavalry as the commander, and it gave me a lot of opportunity to continue on doing some of the historical research that I wanted. I guess I was the de facto unit historian. So definitely a lot of interesting things, especially with what had happened during the war, especially in Hawaii. My mother was at Pearl Harbor when it was attacked, along with my grandparents. My grandfather had worked for the Department of the Army, so they had housing on base. So World War II is always something, especially in Hawaii and the effects on Hawaii. It's always something special, to my in my heart. And spending so much time on the Big Island as well. My son's side is actually from Big Island as well. So definitely a place that has always been near and dear to my heart, and the stories about it.
So you got to be there as XO because that was your full-time job in the Big Island.
Yes.
So that's when you got to do a lot of the history. And then as commander, I'm sure you shared some of that history now with your lieutenants and captains below you.
Yep, I'm sure a lot of them didn't like me going into a big history thing on it, but wherever I could to help build up what our lineage is, and especially all of our shared history is, us being able to carry that torch forward.
That's right. Can you share with everyone now, with that background that you explained and why the 299 has a special place in your heart, what happened in 1942?
Yeah, so I guess the best way for me to explain it is it started in October 1940 is when President Roosevelt actually activated the National Guard. So the 299th was a part of a regiment, so it wasn't a full regiment. 1st Battalion was on Maui, 2nd Battalion was on the Big Island, and then 3rd Battalion was slated to be on Oahu, on the Kauai, while we had the 298th Regiment, Infantry Regiment here on Oahu. So during that time, both regiments were activated and taken from the National Guard's hierarchy and placed underneath the 24th and 25th Infantry Divisions out of Schofield. And then during that time, the recruitment actually was expanded to include more Japanese, more personnel, more Filipinos in a draft to be able to help fill them to a full regiment. So the 299th was actually spread out on 3 different islands. So from 1940 to when Pearl Harbor was attacked on December 7, 1941, a lot of people actually forget that we were preparing for war since about 1939 in Hawaii. So there's a lot of preparations. We already had our local regiments, fully activated at that time. So the story I did want to cover is about some soldiers from the Big Island who were attending basic training. In fact, their basic training was interrupted by World War II. And the initial confusion that happened, especially with the Japanese attack, there was a lot of initial, distractors with their basic training. From what I've read and researched, a lot of the Japanese soldiers that were there as basic training was being held at Schofield, their weapons were taken away. Then a little bit later, they were given back to them. And the Big Island soldiers that I want to talk about were actually finished their basic training after it was interrupted around the end of January 1942.
So they were Hawaii-based soldiers going to basic training at Schofield Barracks.
Yes.
And a lot of them were of Japanese ancestry.
Yes. So it was a mix of Japanese ancestry, Filipino, Puerto Rican, and Portuguese. So with that, There is a misconception that the Americans of Japanese ancestry were pulled out of the 298th and 299th National Guard right away after the attack, but they were actually retained up until about up until May 1942, early July. Sorry, I messed up those dates. May 1942 to June 1942 is about when they were actually pulled out. And then they eventually formed the Hawaii Provisional Battalion that became the 100 Battalion. That was later, famed in the European
Most
and North
decorated small
African
unit in the
theater.
history of the United States Army. Yes.
Yep. So with that, in January of 1942, 26 soldiers from the Big Island who were assigned to the 299th Infantry Regiment had graduated from basic training. They actually took a photograph of themselves with their sergeant on January 26, 1942 by Shigeru Ushijima was one of the graduates. He took the photograph himself. Their sergeant was inside the photo, but it was a picture of like him and his Big Island friends that were on their way to head home to help to defend the Big Island against any possible invasion. And a lot of people kind of forget that this was a month and a half after Pearl Harbor. The threat of invasion was very, very real. So Hawaii was on wartime footing. Martial law was in place. And Hawaii had already been attacked additional times with Japanese submarines actually conducting shelling on Maui, Big Island, and Kauai as well.
That's not known by a lot of people.
Yeah.
And so is the next part of this story. Yes.
Yeah, so there definitely was that real fear of an invasion coming down. And so, throughout the entire state, the territory at the time, there was a big fear that there would be invasions on the outer islands, especially that with Oahu being so built up, it was called the Gibraltar of the Pacific at the time, with all the defenses over there. So there's a big fear that if the Japanese did invade, they would build their combat power up on the outer islands and then isolate Oahu and, helping to really take out that heart of the war effort within the Pacific. And little note that a lot of people don't realize is within a lot of our crests for the Hawaii National Guard, on the top is a dolphin that holds a key. And the reason for it is because Hawaii was considered the key to the Pacific. So with that, even at that time, that was a very real thing, and holding that was one of the big reasons why these soldiers had been on orders and were returning back to the Big Island to help to defend their homes. And most of them were, just young plantation kids from the microcosm that is Hawaii, different races, all there, and all friends. So on the United States Army Transport, or USAT Royal T Frank, they were boarding the ship from the Oahu. I believe they made some stopovers on Maui. And then on the morning of January 28, 1942, between the Ale Nui Haha Channel, which is between Maui and the Big Island. So it was a little bit off of Hana, and I believe they were about 30 miles north of Upolu Point on the very northern part of the Kohala Coast on the Big Island. They were in a convoy with a destroyer and a barge that was towing like a barge of, I believe it was ammunition. So as they crossed the channel at about 7 o'clock in the morning, a lot of the soldiers and the crew were under the deck. So of the 26 soldiers, most of them were under the deck with a few that were on top. Some of the witness accounts that I was able to read and find on some of the research that I did, it showed that they actually were shot at by 3 torpedoes. The first 2 missed. In fact, some of the soldiers saw oh, look, look at the fish, because they thought it was big fish, skimming the surface of the water. I believe the second torpedo just scraped the hull, and then the third actually impacted on the ship. Whether or not the submarine was actually aiming at that Army transport ship that they were on, or at the barge with the ammunition, or even the destroyer that was escorting them, nobody really knows. But what we do know is when it hit on the third torpedo, the ship sank almost instantly, so within about 30 seconds. So some of the survivors, especially from the group of 26, only 9 survived in the water. They spent about 3 hours covered in, oil slick and just with debris scattered all around them. I believe the destroyer immediately went after the submarine. Eventually, the barge that was towing the ammunition came back to rescue them. Because they were between both the Big Island and Maui, they were taken to Hana, Maui to be treated. Some of the research I did, and even during our Lahaina wildfire response, I went out to Maui to try to do some of the historical research out there. And from what we were kind of able to find is the old Hana School, which is now, I believe, a civic center there. They took the personnel that were rescued, the 9 soldiers, and some of the other crew, and started to do treatment of them medically there. And
I read an account about that from research that you provided, that Hana was prepared for something like this.
Yes.
Because of the military transports, which, again, I grew up in Kihei, Maui. I thought I knew history, had no clue, but Hana was ready. So when they did bring the survivors, like you said, they triaged them, they made phone calls, the Navy flew some supplies, and they got an ambulance, took the 52 bridge road to go grab them. But all of that started as they arrived. So it was actually a really well-run operation in Hana.
It was a part of especially with Hawaii being on a wartime footing now, even prior to the start of the war, there was more of an increase with the YMCA conducting first aid classes, triage classes, civil defense conducting conducting medical classes, and anything that would be like a school or anything like that, especially in these isolated communities. The part of the civil defense program was to build resiliency, especially if you've ever been out to Hana, which you're a Maui person, so I know you definitely have. It's even today, it's really, really isolated out there. So there was a big program to be able to build self-sufficiency into our communities, especially in time of war where anything could be cut off. And at that time, the only ways in were the harbor, which is not as in use anymore, and that road going north and south into Hana.
That's right. So, okay, so they're in Hana. The survivors are in Hana. They're on Maui. Those guys are safe. And so this whole incident happened. And then can you share now just the last part of that story about what the government, that situation was with the government and the survivors?
So due to martial law, and especially with not just the survivors, but also the community of Hana, words like treason and classified were thrown around. So the people of Hana were told by military authorities that showed up that, not to speak of it, this didn't happen. And they were basically sworn to silence. So even when we, and a lot of the information I got from some articles written in Maui about it, where a lot of the older generation knew about it but didn't really talk about it because there was secrecy. And during martial law, especially with only a month and a half after Pearl Harbor, there was a strict control on information, but also any type of dissension would be handled differently than we would today. So they were basically almost not threatened, but they were highly advised not to be able to say anything. Yeah. So with that, also the soldiers who had perished on the Frank, their families weren't told how they died until the end of the war, is pretty much what I've been able to find through a lot of the research and articles that I found on the subject.
And the surviving, how many survived?
So 9 survived. 8 eventually, because they were Nisei and Sansei, they went into the 100 Battalion when the 298th and the 299th, the Americans and Japanese ancestry, were formed in mass in, I want to say, late May 1942, and removed from the 299th and 298th and put into the Hawaiian Provisional Battalion. So they all fought in the war in Europe and survived.
So they survived
Yes.
Frank, and then they survived the war being
Yes,
in the
they
100
did.
Battalion and everything that they saw. So now all 8 of those gentlemen, they all came back.
Yes, they did. And then one who was Portuguese, he went with the 298th and fought in the Pacific with the 298th when it was known as the Hawaiian Regiment, when it deployed to the
Guadalcanal.
South Pacific.
Yes, they were Guadalcanal.
Guadalcanal and Espiritu Santo.
Okay, so that's the story that I wanted you to share and that we wanted to get out there. Now, why did you start doing this project? Why did it resonate with you? I know you were the commander of the unit, but was there anything else? Why did this story you feel needed to be told and shared?
Well, during the research, and especially during the COVID time, I found out that there was a small little memorial that was created by one of the I believe it's a nonprofit or another organization in Hilo about it. And so it kind of piqued my interest because I originally saw the story on 100 Battalion website. And being the history person I am and growing up in Pearl City where everybody's grandfather was a 100 Battalion or 442nd veteran, I grew up on the stories of the 100. So I thought it was definitely an interesting story. So, but maybe about a year or so later, I'd run into it again and then I saw that, they were 299th soldiers. And that was something that nobody really knew within the unit, at least nobody that I had spoken with. And I spoke with some of the older timers. Only a few would know about the story. But I think what really hit me was like reading more and more about it is, they were so they called themselves the Torpedo Gang, the survivors.
Pretty cool nickname.
Yep. And they were basically taken and pushed to the 298th. They didn't really make it back to the Big Island, at least to be stationed. And a lot of they were basically told not to tell anybody what happened. But, the coconut wireless being what it is, and especially amongst local boys, people kind of like knew that had kind of happened, as words started to spread, but they were all told not to speak about it. And, with that, a lot of the families didn't even realize what had happened. It was reported in, I want to say, the newspapers in the mainland in about February or so of that same year, but it was never said in Hawaii. Due to martial law, they didn't put out anything with any local media. And there's a combination of reasons why people believe they didn't. They didn't want people to know that there were still Japanese subs lurking in the vicinity of Hawaii. Even Matson Shipping was getting torpedoed during that initial part of the war. They also didn't, there might have been some sentiment for, oh, look, the Japanese are here. They didn't want to have any persons of Japanese ancestry possibly to be swayed by that and switch sides and cause any issues here. Definitely during that time, there's a lot of confusion. There's a lot of worry about what might happen and even questioning the loyalty of some of the citizens that were of Japanese ancestry.
That's a lot to take in, and that makes sense why you'd be interested in it by finding that original plaque. You have to have this new project now, and when I talk project, it's just this one piece of this entire history is that you'd like to have a memorial made and set and dedicated. So can you describe what this memorial will look like and what's the goal of this project?
Yep. And one of the biggest things is, from what I had read about the Torpedo Gang was they would meet every year on January 28th to be able to do a memorial for their friends, whether it be, they'd share a drink or they would, have lunch together, especially in their older age. But they would try to meet every year on January 29th. So the unit itself, we kind of started the January 29th to be the 299th Regimental Memorial Day in honor of the sacrifice of the soldiers on the Frank. So with that, we wanted to be able to have a place that we can be able to have as a reminder, especially for the lineage that they handed off to us. So we are looking at creating a memorial on the Kawika Military Reservation, which is the Hawaii National Guard base located in Hilo. We do have a large lava rock pohaku wall for our Vietnam, the personnel that had passed away. So we wanted to do something like that for the Frank, being that these were 299 soldiers that, they didn't get the fanfare or even like the recognition that they got. And I think that's what really speaks to me is the injustice of their sacrifice, because a majority of the soldiers that passed away or even the Torpedo Gang that, survived is basically what our heritage is of being the people from Hawaii. We have, we had Portuguese, we had Chinese, we had Japanese, we had Filipino. So just to think of that, they sacrificed their lives early on in the very beginning of the war for their country. They were young kids that nobody, really remembered who they were afterwards. We wanted to be able to do something to honor their sacrifice and aspire to.
You said that they were all privates, right? Because they just did basic training. So these were the newest soldiers, and they perished. Have family members of the Torpedo gang and the ones who passed away? Are you in touch with family members?
So I actually did a talk at the Puna Hongwanji a couple of weeks ago for Memorial Day, and found out that one of the organizers that was helping us out with that, I had brought up the story about the Frank just to kind of share the experiences with that, and I wanted to share their story a little bit more. One of the organizers, she said as soon as I sat down, like, because I told anybody that wanted to talk story about it could speak with me afterwards, and I'd be happy to like talk or share documents that I have. And she was like, "Oh yeah, I want to talk to you. That was my uncle, Toma." And I didn't actually put two and two together, but so one of our soldiers that was also our previous soldiers from 299 Cav that was with me at the Hongwanji was one of our medics. That was his uncle.
Oh,
and he was a survivor in the Torpedo Gang. So that actually, I felt the chicken skin, like, when that happened. And then, I didn't put two and two together that I thought, I wonder if that's related to Artoma, who was one of our medics. But yeah, no, and he, shot me a text later. He's like, "Oh, sir, thank you so much." Because I would have never known what happened to my dad's brother, like, or my grandfather's brother about all that. So that was a really good feeling, and they definitely said that they would help put out any word to any of the surviving family members to contact us. So it definitely brings a sense of community, and that was one of the things I wanted to during that talk with the Puna Hongwanji was, it's the sense of community that we have within Hawaii that really makes us great.
I think you're gonna get a lot more interest in this, and probably some inquiries. Hopefully, some pictures. I would love to see more pictures of the Torpedo Gang. Maybe some of their meetups that they've had throughout the years. We're gonna start to wrap this up. Can you tell me before we do, is there something that you found in the history that was the most interesting to you? Any part of your research or what you had to do to get some pieces of the information?
Definitely, because it was an event that was really kept secret. It was actually kind of difficult to find a lot of things, but I had a couple, I guess I would find like articles here and there. It was actually kind of a strange coincidence. I was researching my son's grandfather name because I'm helping him with genealogy. And when I put his name into Google and I was like going through pictures, it actually sent me to an old article in the National Guard's Pupukahi that was about the Frank, and like from the 1980s. And it was really spooky of like, how that, how that happened. And with that, I was able to get a lot more information from the words of the survivors. Because right now, to this day, all the Torpedo Gang has passed away. So the unit actually will meet on January 28th, and then we'll lay a lay at, there's that memorial that's near the Kamehameha statue in Hilo, and then also at the Hilo Veterans Cemetery too. There's a plaque that was laid down in, I want to say 1948, that has the name of the soldiers as well. So, it definitely is, something that we wanted to emulate with on our property with a larger rock or pohaku, that we will have the plaque with, we were able to get a bronze plaque with the picture. So the last picture that Shigeru Ushijima had taken, so we were able to get that on a bronze plaque. And then we're still in the process of sourcing a larger one that will have the unit's crest, and then with the story and the names of the fallen, and also with the names of the Torpedo Gang as well.
Well, we as the PAO will be sharing all of this research, and then during this podcast, or for the digital listeners, we're going to have that picture shown a couple times, and the channel, and the picture of the boat, all of that you were able to provide me before this. So please keep us updated on when you're going to hold that dedication, because we want to make sure we cover that and we get people there.
Will do.
Do you encourage retirees, veterans, family members, and even current members, if they have any information, to send it to you?
Yes, please. Yeah, especially if anyone is watching this, we definitely would appreciate any information, or even with family members, you could put us in touch with the family members when we do the memorial and we are doing the unveiling. We'd love to have the family members there to be able to just be able to share with us that moment and help us to honor those fallen members.
Excellent. Did you have anything else to add that I didn't ask about? Any missing parts of the story?
In some of my other research, because I was, researching from the 20s through the 30s as well on the unit itself, I actually found that a lot of times when they would conduct annual training, when the 2nd Battalion would go to Maui for their annual trainings in the summertime, they actually rode on the USAT Royal T Frank a lot. So it was a ship that was utilized a lot by the Hawaii Guard to be able to conduct their annual training. So I thought that was I don't want to say spooky, but I thought that was a really interesting fact that, it was a ship that was tied to the Guard already with 299th doing their exercises. And then that was, what they were riding when they were hit by that Japanese submarine.
And in some of the research that I read, you found the exact boat name, the submarine, and
Yes.
that it got hit later on. It got sunk.
So they actually were able to so they actually thought that I want to say it was two of the another destroyer came. I forget the names offhand. I know one was a Trevor, and I forget what the second one was. So they had thought that they sunk the sub after the attack on January 28th, 42, but they actually didn't. And they were able to find eventually that, and especially with the combat logs, that they found the sub. It was, I think 171 or something like that. But so it eventually was sunk in the South Pacific, I want to say in 1944.
Okay, so that ship went down. Well, thank you very much for spending time with us today and sharing that story. This is very important history, and history that was kind of forgotten even by us, the unit and the organization that it belonged to. So thanks for kind of reinvigorating. But we'll definitely let the public know and our listeners when that event will happen, when we dedicate the large pohaku for the Torpedo Gang and for those who were killed on the Frank. So thank you again for joining us today, Lieutenant Colonel Hosea.
Thank you very much,
Jeff Hickman with Public Affairs. Aloha.
Aloha.